There's a place in England so feared, even hardened criminals lower their voices when they say its name. It's a prison whispered about in courtrooms and feared on cell blocks. A place where even the guards who've served time behind its walls, not as inmates, but as officers, have seen things they will never speak of again. This isn't some modern facility built for reform. This is not a place of second chances. This is HMP Wakefield. It's nicknamed the Monster Mansion, and for good reason. Wakefield has housed some of the most dangerous individuals in British criminal history, men whose crimes were so extreme, society decided there was only one place for them. Not rehabilitation centres, not open prisons, but here. Behind these thick Victorian walls lies a system designed for one thing: control. Where the prisoners are infamous, the routines are unforgiving, and one mistake can cost more than just a career. Before we dive in, drop a comment and let us know where you're re-watching from. We'd love to hear from you. If you enjoy true crime stories like this, be sure to like the video, subscribe, turn on that notification bell, and share it with someone who'd love it too. Wakefield is not a place inmates arrive by accident. You don't end up here, you're sent here. Every man who crosses these gates carries a label that follows him for life. Too violent, too unpredictable, too dangerous to be anywhere else. Inside Wakefield, reputation is currency, silence is protection, and trust is a luxury no one can afford. This is a prison where the wrong glance can escalate into a full lockdown, where alliances form quietly and shatter violently, and where the staff must manage monsters while becoming just numb enough to survive the job. But what truly makes Wakefield terrifying isn't just who it holds. It's what the prison itself does to the people inside it. HMP Wakefield began its life way back in 1888, during the height of Britain's obsession with punishment over reform. It was designed with one priority: total control. The architecture tells the story before a single word is spoken. High stone walls, narrow landings, iron gates stacked behind more iron gates. Every corridor was engineered to disorient. Every cell was meant to isolate. This was a Victorian-era response to fear of crime, fear of chaos, fear of losing authority. What the designers didn't know was that over a century later, this exact same structure would become the final stop for some of the most psychologically complex and violent individuals the country had ever seen. Wakefield wasn't just built to hold prisoners. It was built to break them down. For decades, Wakefield operated as a standard high-security prison. But everything changed in the late 20th century. As Britain's criminal justice system evolved, a need emerged: a place to house inmates who could not be safely managed anywhere else. Men whose crimes shocked the nation. Men who inspired public outrage and media frenzy. Men whose very presence could destabilize an entire prison wing. Wakefield became the answer. Over time, it gained an unofficial status as the destination for Category A prisoners, the highest security classification in the UK. Category A doesn't just mean dangerous. It means escape-proof. It means constant monitoring. It means the state believes you pose a direct and constant threat to public safety. And as these infamous inmates were transferred in, Wakefield's reputation transformed. Staff began calling it the Monster Mansion. The name stuck. So what is life like on the inside? A Category A prisoner at Wakefield lives under rules so strict they completely reshape the concept of daily life. Every single movement is logged. Every door opens only with authorization. Every interaction is watched, timed, and controlled. Cells are smaller than most people's bathrooms. Personal possessions are severely limited. Even conversations are monitored for coded language. But this immense pressure doesn't just fall on the inmates. It falls on the staff. Officers at Wakefield walk onto the wings knowing they are surrounded by individuals with absolutely nothing left to lose. Many of the men here will never be released. Some are serving whole life orders, sentences with no possibility of parole. And when there is no hope, behavior changes. Desperation becomes a kind of currency. And power shifts in dangerous ways. To understand Wakefield, you have to understand what permanent confinement does to the human mind. Days blur together. Weeks become meaningless. Years lose their structure. Without any possibility of release, emotions either flatten out completely or they explode. Some prisoners withdraw entirely, speaking only when absolutely necessary. Others become hyper-aware, constantly manipulating routines, testing boundaries, and probing for any weakness they can find. This environment creates a strange hierarchy. It's not based on physical strength alone, but on reputation, infamy, and control. And Wakefield, unlike any other prison in the UK, became a place where notoriety itself carried weight. The more feared your past, the quieter the wing became when you walked through it. Over the years, Wakefield has housed individuals whose names dominated headlines, cases that reshaped laws, policies, and public trust. Their crimes were debated in Parliament, analysed by psychologists, and argued over in living rooms across the country. And once the media storm faded, these men were brought here, behind stone walls where the cameras could no longer see them. Wakefield became the silent warehouse of the nation's trauma, a place where society deposited its worst fears, and then tried to forget them. But the walls remember everything. Despite its rock-solid reputation, Wakefield has never been invincible. There have been moments, rare but very real, when control has slipped. Periods of tension where overcrowding pushed the systems to their absolute limits. Staff shortages that forced impossible decisions. Whispers of contraband, manipulation, and influence moving quietly just beneath the surface. Each incident reinforced a hard truth. No matter how secure the walls are, prisons are still run by people. And people make mistakes. In a place like Wakefield, a single mistake can echo for years. Perhaps the most overlooked figures in this entire story are the officers who keep showing up. The men and women who spend decades working face-to-face with individuals the public considers monsters, and then go home to their normal lives. They learn to read the most subtle changes in behaviour, to sense tension before it erupts, to operate on an instinct that's been sharpened by years of constant risk. Many leave with psychological scars they never expected. Some transfer out, but others stay right up until retirement. Because once you understand Wakefield, few other prisons will ever feel the same again. For generations, one question has followed HMP Wakefield. Is a place like this necessary, or does it create the very dangers it's meant to control? Does permanent containment protect society, or does it produce a pressure that can never truly be contained? Wakefield doesn't offer easy answers. It only exists, heavy, silent, watching. And the men inside it know something the rest of us don't. Some doors don't just lock behind you. They lock time itself. Inside HMP Wakefield, names lose their meaning. Men are no longer introduced by who they were before prison. They are defined by what the world knows them for. By headlines, by court transcripts, by whispered descriptions passed from wing to wing. Infamy becomes identity. Some inmates reject it, trying to disappear into the routine, avoiding attention at all costs. Others lean into it, not out of pride, but necessity. In a prison like Wakefield, reputation can act as armor. Officers notice it immediately, how certain prisoners carry themselves, how conversations stop when they pass, how small adjustments are made to routines around them, never acknowledged out loud. Wakefield is not ruled by chaos. It is ruled by a calculated tension, a balance that must be maintained every single day. There are the official rules of Wakefield, written in manuals, reinforced through training, enforced with discipline. And then there are the rules no one teaches, but everyone learns. Never show weakness. Never react emotionally. Never assume silence means safety. Inmates quickly learn which areas to avoid, which times of day carry more risk, and which interactions are purely transactional. Staff learn which voices signal escalation, which pauses indicate trouble, and which moments require extra presence, even if no alarm has sounded. This unspoken system exists because it has to. Wakefield cannot survive on force alone. It survives on anticipation. When Wakefield goes into lockdown, the prison doesn't just slow down, it freezes. Cells close. Movement halts. Silence thickens. Lockdowns don't always mean something violent has happened. Sometimes they're precautionary, intelligence picked up, tensions rising, information incomplete. But to the men locked inside their cells, the reason doesn't matter. A lockdown reminds everyone of the truth. Freedom here is conditional, temporary, and easily taken away. Minutes stretch. Sounds amplify. Thoughts spiral. For some inmates, lockdown is unbearable. For others, it's familiar, almost comforting. Because stillness is easier than uncertainty. Wakefield carries a reputation shaped by decades of high-profile cases. Cases that changed how the public viewed crime, punishment, and safety. Even as prisoners age, the shadow of their past never leaves them. Files grow thicker. Assessments repeat. Risk ratings rarely change. Some have been incarcerated longer than they lived freely outside. Their world has shrunk to concrete walls, fluorescent lights, and scheduled movement. Technology advanced without them. Society moved forward without them. And Wakefield became their permanent address, not just a prison, but a static point in time. One of Wakefield's greatest challenges lies not in physical control, but in psychological management. High-security prisons attract complex minds, trauma, personality disorders, long histories of instability that don't just disappear behind bars. Staff are trained to recognize patterns, escalation disguised as calm, withdrawal mistaken for compliance, compliance hiding intent. In Wakefield, mental health is never an abstract concept. It affects staffing decisions, movement plans, cell placements. Every decision must balance safety with humanity, and that balance is fragile. Too much pressure in the wrong direction can shift the entire prison. For officers, Wakefield is a place where vigilance never switches off. Cameras follow movement. Logs track behavior. Reports document everything. But the officers know something cameras don't capture: atmosphere. They feel it in the air when something is off. A tone in conversation. A look held too long. A wing that feels quieter than normal. This intuition isn't written in policy, but it saves lives. Veteran officers trust it. Newer staff learn it quickly. Because in Wakefield, hesitation can be costly. Wakefield doesn't just contain people. It changes them. Some inmates become more controlled, more restrained, adapting to survive within strict boundaries. Others harden emotionally, creating distance between who they are and who they once were. Staff change too. Dark humor becomes a coping mechanism. Routine replaces emotion. Home life and work life stay deliberately separate. Many officers say the same thing after years inside Wakefield: you don't realize how much it affects you until you leave. Outside the walls, Wakefield exists largely in the imagination. Media portrayals amplify fear. Nicknames reinforce legend. Stories grow darker with each retelling. But the truth is more complicated. Wakefield is not constant violence, not endless chaos, not madness around every corner. It is routine, strict, controlled, relentless routine. Managing individual society has deemed too dangerous for normal systems. The danger lies not in daily disorder, but in what happens when that routine fails. For prisoners serving whole life orders, Wakefield is not a chapter, it is the entire book. There is no countdown. No release dates circled on calendars. No plans beyond tomorrow's schedule. This reality strips motivation down to the basics: survival, control, dignity, however that's defined inside. Some attempt education programs despite knowing release will never come. Others disengage entirely. Wakefield becomes a place where time continues, but purpose fractures. Late at night, when lights dim and movement stops, Wakefield feels different. Older. Heavier. Almost aware of itself. Officers walking the final check say the same thing: the prison feels like it's listening. That's when the question returns, the one no policy can answer. If society locks away its worst forever, what responsibility does it still hold toward them? Wakefield offers no moral clarity, only containment. For decades, the name Wakefield has been whispered with a mix of fear and fascination. Known as the Monster Mansion, it's home to some of the UK's most dangerous individuals. But the real story of Wakefield isn't just about the inmates it holds. It's about the constant, invisible battle to maintain control in a place designed to contain chaos. This is the story of what happens when that control begins to crack. For a long time, Wakefield survived on a knife-edge balance. Tensions were managed, routines were followed with near-religious precision, and authority was enforced quietly but with undeniable firmness. But no balance lasts forever. Pressures started to build. The inmates became more complex, public scrutiny intensified after high-profile cases, and the prison itself, an aging structure from another century, began to feel the strain. Overcrowding wasn't just about more bodies. It was about more variables, more personalities clashing in close quarters, and more psychological weight on a system already pushed to its limit. Wakefield didn't collapse, but it began to groan under the pressure. And in a place like this, that strain is a warning sign that no one can afford to ignore. Inside these walls, physical strength matters, but information is the most dangerous currency of all. Who's being moved to another wing? Who's under close observation? Whose privileges have been taken away? The inmates are expert listeners. They notice patterns. They analyze silences. A tiny change in the daily routine can send ripples of anxiety through an entire block, not because something has happened, but because something might. Officers are trained to restrict the flow of information, but the truth is simple. In a closed system, knowledge always finds a way to travel. And when it does, it has the power to reshape behavior in an instant. Running Wakefield is unlike running any other prison. Every single decision carries immense weight. Who works on which wing? Which inmates share a space? When movement between cells is allowed? The governors who take charge know that Wakefield's reputation will follow them long after they've left. There is absolutely no room for experimental policies here, and zero tolerance for guesswork. One misjudgment, one small detail overlooked, could unravel years of carefully maintained stability. Leadership at Wakefield doesn't chase innovation. It seeks absolute control without creating a single spark. Not all challenges come with a warning. Sometimes, the prison is tested quietly, subtly. It might be an inmate refusing to comply, not aggressively, just enough to disrupt the flow of the day. It could be an entire wing deliberately slowing down movement, a coordinated act of passive resistance. These small acts of noncompliance, when layered on top of each other, can become a major operational problem. These moments aren't a full-blown rebellion. They are probes. They are ways of measuring the staff's response time, testing the boundaries, and identifying the prison's pressure points. Wakefield responds not with panic, but with patience, because in this environment, overreacting is just as dangerous as showing weakness. There was a day, one that is rarely spoken of, when Wakefield came closer to total disorder than the public ever knew. There were no riots, no explosions, no dramatic breaking headlines. It was simply a perfect storm of miscalculations. Signals were misread. Resources were stretched thin. Movement around the prison slowed to a crawl, and the tension in the air became thick enough to feel. The number of staff on the wings increased, but subtly, deliberately, to avoid causing alarm. To an outsider, it would have looked like just another day. But for those inside, it felt like holding your breath underwater, unsure how much longer you could last. By evening, the delicate equilibrium had returned. But something had changed. A line had been crossed, and everyone knew it. In the aftermath of that near disaster, changes were made, quiet ones. Routines were adjusted. Staffing patterns were revised. Observation protocols were tightened. There were no press releases, no public admissions of failure. Wakefield doesn't publicize its resilience. It reinforces it silently. Because in a place like this, acknowledging a vulnerability can be just as risky as ignoring it. And the men inside, the inmates, they notice the changes. They always do. Over time, even the most infamous names begin to fade into the prison's routine. Media attention moves on to the next big story, and the public's memory dulls. But Wakefield never forgets. The files on these individuals remain active. The psychological assessments continue. For the system, risk never expires. An inmate might grow old, become physically frail, and lose all relevance beyond these walls, but the system treats them with the exact same level of caution as it did decades before. This consistency is its protection. It protects the staff, it protects the structure, and it protects the world outside. But not every moment inside Wakefield is defined by danger and tension. In the quiet spaces between the formal routines, you find something else. You find quiet conversations, moments of genuine reflection, long, uneventful hours when nothing happens, and the primary goal is to ensure nothing does. It's an officer checking in on an inmate during a late-night round. It's a prisoner reading the same paperback book for the third time. It's the faint sound of a radio playing through thick concrete walls. These small moments don't redeem the place, but they serve as a constant reminder that even in the most controlled and dehumanizing environments, humanity persists. Fragile, limited, but always present. The officers who spend years, even decades, working at Wakefield carry the prison with them long after they retire. Their sleep patterns are forever changed. Their sense of awareness never fully switches off. Crowded public spaces feel different, triggering a sense of hypervigilance. Some are able to talk openly about this psychological toll after they leave the job. Others never speak of it at all. They understand something that few outsiders can ever grasp. To effectively contain danger, you have to be in close proximity to it. And that kind of proximity always leaves a mark. The true legacy of the Monster Mansion isn't just the infamous inmates it has held. It's the systems it has shaped and the prison policies it has influenced across the country. It's the silent acknowledgement that some individuals push the very limits of punishment and containment. The nickname isn't a celebration, it's a warning. It is a stark reminder of what happens when society reaches the edge of its tolerance and decides that absolute safety must come before any hope of resolution. But here is the twist that no one ever expects. For all its fearsome reputation, for all the dangerous men locked inside, Wakefield's greatest threat was never from them. It was, and always will be, complacency. It's the dangerous belief that because control has always been maintained in the past, it will automatically be maintained in the future. Wakefield survives not because its walls are strong, but because the vigilance of the people inside it never, ever ends. The moment that vigilance fades, the prison becomes something else entirely. So what do these walls really hold? They hold violence, yes. They hold trauma. They hold the devastating consequences of choices that changed countless lives forever. But more than anything, they hold society's refusal to look away. Wakefield is a place built not for hope, but for containment. And as long as places like it exist, a difficult question remains. Is this the price of our safety, or is it the cost of our own unresolved failure? The gates at HMP Wakefield open every morning, and they lock shut every single night. The routine continues. The watch resumes. The delicate balance resets for another day. The monster mansion never sleeps. It waits. Because in a world that fears what it cannot control, Wakefield stands as proof that some answers are locked away, not because they've been solved, but because they are simply too dangerous to confront. When the final doors slam shut and the sound of footsteps fades away, HMP Wakefield settles into a profound quiet. It's in this quiet that the prison reveals its true purpose. This isn't a place defined by constant chaos or explosive violence, but by something much more relentless, permanent containment. It's not about momentary anger. It's about consequences that stretch across decades, a grip that never loosens. Every stone, every corridor, every locked gate echoes with the weight of choices. Choices made long before these men arrived, and choices that will continue long after they are gone. Wakefield doesn't punish in bursts of action. It punishes with time itself. The men inside Wakefield are often reduced to simple labels: monsters, threats, the irredeemable. And while the severity of their crimes can never be diminished, the prison forces us to confront a more complex truth. These men didn't just vanish from the world. They still wake up every morning. They still get older. They still think. Wakefield exists so the rest of society doesn't have to face that difficult reality every single day. The real question isn't whether a place like Wakefield works. It's whether we, as a society, are willing to truly accept what its existence represents. Keeping the world safe comes at a cost. Sometimes that cost is measured in taxes or debates about freedom. And sometimes it's paid in places like this, where hope isn't a guarantee, where clear-cut endings are rarely written, and where time moves forward without offering forgiveness. The prison doesn't ask for our understanding. It only demands to remain standing, a fortress against our deepest fears. In the end, HMP Wakefield isn't the villain of this story. It's a mirror. It reflects just how far a society is willing to go to contain what it fears the most. Because the truly unsettling idea isn't that the monster mansion exists. It's that somewhere along the line, we collectively decided that it had to. Tonight, the gates will close. Tomorrow, they will open again. And inside HMP Wakefield, time will continue to be locked, measured, and watched. This place doesn't promise justice or redemption. It promises containment. And for those inside, the story never really ends. Thanks for watching.